he does talk in another portion about how sad he has been and scared he's been because there have been a lot of attacks towards his family, and his misery in part he blames on the words people have said about him. But let's watch this beginning real fast.
Dr. Fauci, you talked about how, we live in partisan times, a lot of misinformation. And, colleagues on this body said, you should be, charged and found guilty. Of course, the only one that's happened to is your former boss. But, the question I have is, when you saw a lot of that disinformation, whether it was, we can use a disinfectant to do like a cleaning or do light in the body, or that, China's working super hard, President Xi's got it contained, all of the stuff that was being put out, were you concerned? What was your feeling at that time, working in the administration, seeing that come from the podium?
Well, I was very frustrated by that. It was very clear. I was put in a very difficult position that I didn't like, of having to contradict publicly the President of the United States. I took no great pleasure in that, but I felt it was my responsibility to preserve.
He must have thought you did a great job. He gave you a commendation right before he left.
Well, I felt it was my responsibility, as to preserve my own personal integrity, and my major responsibility to the American public to tell them the truth. And if I could just take this opportunity, when I was saying that if you attack me, you attack science, I didn't mean that I am science. What I meant was that when the data showed that hydroxychloroquine does not work, and there are people saying, oh, it does, I'll give it to people, and we know it can be hurtful to them, then when you're attacking what I'm saying, that the science shows it doesn't work, and the science shows that bleach doesn't work, that when you attack that, you really are attacking science, because science has shown that it doesn't work.
Okay, Bill, is it just me, or does he basically say that he is science? I mean, I'm just curious. He starts by saying that's not what he meant, but then he basically said that is what he meant. What am I missing here?
Yeah, dude, Fauci is the master and commander of, I'm going to say a lot of words and not say anything. This was just so bad. And we're going to talk more about this hearing here in just a few minutes. But, this was Moskowitz, who's one of the few liberal left-leaning Democrats from Florida in Congress. And this was his sad attempt to try to give Fauci a couple of slow pitch softballs to knock out of the park before the Republicans did their biggest dumb attempt to try to hammer Fauci. It's just so obnoxious to me how Fauci tries to say so much and say nothing at all, but I'll take credit unless you're trying to blame me for something, then it's everybody else's fault. And in saying all of this, he says nothing.
And it's obvious they're trying to say, hey, it wasn't your problem that there was so much division and conflict. It was the president's, and we need to redirect our blame to the president. Frankly, if you watch Good Kid Productions, Rob Mons has been on before, they did a whole video about how Deborah Birx was the one that really should have taken quite a bit of blame. And it's curious how, I'm not trying to be like a fangirl of Fauci. Trust me. Okay. I'm not. But I think it's really interesting that she somehow escaped the public eye when it seems like she deserves a significant amount of criticism. If you're going to criticize Fauci, you should be criticizing her. I don't know if it was because of her ties to President Trump or what, but she really escaped by the skin of her teeth. Before we go any further, please consider supporting by checking out BIRCH Gold. If you text Alison, Alison, one L Alison, not two L's. Two L's is Alison Morrow at CNN. I'd like to say I like my show better. Alison, text it 989-898. Okay. 989-898 and just put Alison in the message and you will get your information, free, no obligation info kit on gold. Essentially what BIRCH Gold does is help you turn your IRA or 401k into physical gold. Their pitch here is that the interest the country is now paying on national debt has zoomed past every other individual budget item except Social Security, which means the U.S. now spends more on interest than on national defense or even Medicare. And it's getting worse, which is why a lot of people are turning to them to find out more about investing in gold. So if that's you, or you just like to text people, just want to send a text message on my behalf, you don't care anything about it, consider texting 989-898 and text Allison. You'll get the information, start the conversation. Ever thought about doing it? This is a great way to learn more about it with no obligation, and also to just show them, I listen to the Allison Morrow Show and I'm here to support her. So send me the info. Again, text Allison 989-898. Birch Gold's been around over 20 years. They've got countless 5-star reviews. Happy to answer your questions. Great way to support my work. Okay. So
if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Look, Bill just sent the text. Okay, let's see.
Yep.
Awesome.
Hold on.
All right,
There we go.
Let's go back over to Fauci and see what else he has to say here. Okay.
That's what I meant. When you're attacking me, you're attacking science.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Gentleman's time's
Okay.
expired. Now recognize Mr. Jordan from Ohio for 5 minutes.
Well, I
Thank you,
want to
Mr.
talk. I
Chairman.
want to
Doctor,
watch
why
a little
was
bit
it so
of the
important that the
Jordan
virus
question and
not-
answer.
Oh yeah, here comes Jordan.
Yeah, it's interesting, but I have to say,
We don't know where it started, and that's the reason
okay,
why
this goes to Wuhan.
I
Here we
keep an
go.
open mind. So I don't know what you mean by why was it so important. It wasn't
Well,
important.
you still don't know where it started? The guys you gave money to figured it out in 3 days.
No.
Mr. Anderson said on January 31st, 2020, virus looks engineered, virus not consistent with evolutionary theory. The very next day, Dr. Gary said, I don't know how this happens in nature. It'd be easy to do in a lab. And then 3 days later, Shazam, they switch and say it has to be nature. So they figured it out in 3 days, but you still don't know?
No, in fact, if you look at what they were saying, Congressman Jordan, they were saying that it was not a manufactured virus. It still could have evolved out of a lab.
Well, let me read something here to you.
They're not incompatible.
In our study on the censorship of the Biden administration working with big tech, I want to read you a WhatsApp message from Mark Zuckerberg. Can we include that the White House put pressure on us to censor the lab leak theory? So this is a communication on July 16th, 2021. Nick Clegg, Joel Kaplan, Sheryl Sandberg, Mark Zuckerberg. They're certainly feeling the pressure to downplay any lab leak theory and go with the natural origin theory.
Is there a question there?
I like it.
One's
He's like,
coming. Here's another email.
no.
It says, subject line, COVID misinformation, Wuhan lab leak theory. In response to continued public pressure and tense conversations with the new administration, we started removing 5 COVID claims, including the lab leak theory. Mr. Zuckerberg responds, this seems like a good reminder that when we compromise our standards due to pressure from an administration in either direction, we often later regret it. Why was it so important the virus not have started in a lab?
Wasn't so important that the virus not. We don't know. We
Well,
know
it was important to someone in the Biden administration, so much so that the top people at Meta, the top people at Facebook are asking, why are we getting all this pressure to downplay the lab leak theory?
But you know what was interesting, Bill? I remember talking about all this back during the Trump administration. So there obviously, if there was pressure, it wasn't just under Biden, but because I remember it being very taboo, even in the Trump era. It was like racist or something if you said that, but that wasn't the Biden administration. Not saying I like the Biden administration's handling of tech either, but here we go.
And we have an email from June of the same year, June 4th, 2021, saying the same thing. It was certainly important to somebody.
Well, what has that got to do with me?
I'm asking you. Why was the administration so pushing not to have the lab leak theory as something that was viable?
I can answer that. I've kept an open mind throughout the entire
You kept
process.
an open mind, Dr. Fauci, open mind.
That was one of my favorite statements on his part, that he has kept an open mind. I don't know if he just meant specifically about the lab leak or everything. He clearly did not keep an open mind about most things related to COVID, because there was a lot of stuff that he really was very adamant we not listen to other doctors and their thoughts and stuff like that. Bill, I guess I'm curious, when you hear him talking about the handling of the messaging and kind of acting like he's confused about why we would ask him these questions, do you think that's sincere? Like, do you think he was part of the censorship regime, or do you think they've allowed him to just kind of take the blame and be the scapegoat, and he was just this, high paid health official that maybe, got some stuff wrong, but he wasn't there trying to be the censorship police? Because he acts like he's surprised that anyone's asking him these questions. Do you think that's sincere?
I think some of it is sincere, because there's some things that Fauci probably shouldn't even been approached about. There's some questions out there that probably he shouldn't have even been asked. That's part of it. But another big part of it is, and Fauci didn't say it, but he should have, because when all this was going on with the pandemic, people in Jen Jordan's ilk and people who were probably a little more right of center were saying, oh, we don't listen to Fauci because he screwed up AIDS in the 80s, and we don't have to listen to Fauci or anything he says because he doesn't know what he's talking about, and he's trying to hide the lab leak theory in Wuhan and all that. But wait, now all of a sudden, the Republicans and people who are leaning right of center are now wanting answers from him now that the pandemic's been over for a year. So why are you asking him now when you didn't want to take his words and his suggestions when the pandemic was going on? So he didn't say that, but I kind of understand it. Now I'm not defending Fauci or how anybody handled the pandemic or the Wuhan lab leak theory or any of that, because they all screwed it up on all sides, left and right. But now I watched this entirety. I've watched this entire line of questioning, and I can't remember, but he was one of the big proponents that, ivermectin is just a horse paste and it doesn't do anything for you. Well, even CNN and some of their hosts have had to backtrack on that and issue some apologies to Joe Rogan.
Who probably needs a good glass of wine is Anthony Fauci.
Yeah.
Maybe what he says will make more sense. So, and he definitely has the money to sign up. In fact, Fauci, if you're watching this, we'll forgive you if you sign up like 600,000 people for my wine club.Maybe 600,009 people for my wine club. AlisonWinePromo.com. You'll get 6 bottles of amazing wine every 3 months. You will never go to a cocktail party without an amazing bottle of wine, and it comes with a story, supports my work. These are all extremist altitude wines, some from Argentina, and then we've opened it up Italy, France, Spain, and they come from small family farms. One vineyard's over 200 years old, hand-picked grapes, natural fermentation. It's the foodie of the foodie wines. So you'll have great wine you can enjoy yourself. You can also give it as a gift. Father's Day is coming up. You love your father, get him a great bottle of wine, sign him up, or you sign yourself up for the club and give him a couple bottles. If you don't like your dad, you probably need a good glass of wine even more. So get a glass of wine, forget about Father's Day. AlisonWinePromo.com. Okay, so let's go back to that, Bill. Just my question is, essentially, are we, like people like me who have interviewed folks who are very critical of Anthony Fauci and would say something like that he's responsible for these deaths, is that inciting violence against Dr. Fauci? If you would like to support the show over on Locals and be on the editorial board, be in the live streams, you're going to get the full show today. Send me some mail, P.O. Box 3355, Denellen, Florida. Love getting the mail. Love getting the support. Joe sent me a nice card here. Joe says, Alison, thank you for all of the great information. You really are a bright light in a world of darkness, and sent me a nice tip. So thank you, Joe. Really appreciate everybody. We are going to kill the show now for anybody but a supporter. So we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for everybody who's on the editorial board. Rockfin, Patreon. We'll get this in full. Rumble. We'll see you later.